Welcome back. Might be finally time to talk about this machine. This is a Knuth KSW 200 tool cutter grinder, and I decided to buy this machine because I wanted something about the footprint of my surface grinder with a little bit larger travels and the possibility to tilt and rotate the spindle of the machine. Also, I wanted the full accessory pack with indexing head, a motor-driven work head, and a set of tailstocks to do round parts, or or actually do cutter grinding on this machine. So this machine is built 1999, Chinese origin, and it's set around until 1999 unused. So I bought it for a very reasonable price, got it delivered, and as you do, I did a complete rebuild of it. I added the rubber bellows here on the vertical column because there was no provision on this machine for dust protection in any way. These rubber bellows are a standard industrial part. You can get them for reasonable money, and you have just to find a way to mount them. I re-scraped the table. It's moving now in a straight line of about 2 to 4 microns, depending on orientation of the moon and the stars. Also re-scraped the saddle itself. The table was moving on a rack and pinion system. Didn't like that for grinding, threw it out, and I machined and built a cable drive system which moves the table without any backlash now, which is very important when you want to do climb grinding. Like on a milling machine, climb milling with backlash in your feed screws can be very dangerous, and with a cable drive you do not have any backlash, and then you're on the safe side. You just need to hold this tight. All the slideways down here are dovetail, which is not ideal or very good for a grinder. On a grinder you would prefer either double V or a V and flat configuration like on a surface grinder, but on tool and cutter grinders you see dovetail ways quite often. Right now it's set up for dovetail grinding. I have another one of those Shaolin 102 compound slides here for rebuilding, and I ground the dovetails on this machine this time. I have 2 vices set up here, and the wheel is dressed to 50-degree angle so I can come in and grind the angled surface of the dovetail. Worked very well, came out very parallel, and reduced scraping time quite a bit. I also rewired the electrics. This machine runs on 400 volts 3-phase, which is not a problem because that's standard for every household here in Germany. But the machine was set up only for one direction of rotation, and I will show you later that you can flip the whole spindle around to be orientated that direction to do cylindrical grinding. And then you want to reverse the spindle direction, and that's why I rewired and built in new switches, so I can run it in both directions. The second switch up here is for a powered workhead, which you would use for cylindrical grinding. Travels of this machine, the table goes back and forth about 350 millimeters plus minus. The saddle moves in and out almost 200 millimeters, and the vertical movement is also about 200 and something millimeters. I can surface grind basically a 200 millimeter high part on this table and still have a little bit of room left with the spindle above it, which is very nice. Speaking of surface grinding, this is not a surface grinder. You can do a little bit of surface grinding on it, but you're very limited. You can use the full length of the table, or the full length of travel of the table, and you can also utilize the full height of the travel. but the cross feed not so much, because you cannot reach far enough over the table to grind wider parts. So the way the machine is set up now, I can only grind something like a 60mm wide part that's 350mm long, which is still decent. I can grind longer parallels now and gibs, stuff like that. That's very nice. I added 2 plates here and here that are screwed on. These are precision ground flat stock, because that's a problem with very much industrial machines too. They do not have any spots, flat spots, where you can stick a mag base to indicate your work or the accessories in. So screwed these on, and they're a very nice resting point for the indicator stands. As you can see, it's a flat table with 1 T-slot in it. That allows for mounting accessories. Right now, my double wise pallet is mounted to it. So now we have a number of accessories that came with the machine that we can put on the table. All the parts have precision keys in the base plates to align them at least basically with the table of the machine. This is a motor-driven workhead. Has a Morse taper 4 in here, and you can, for example, put this nice 80mm Bison 3-shot chuck with a Morse taper 4 cone taper into it. This allows, for example, for cylindrical grinding. It has a ginormous 3-phase motor with 0.18 kilowatts, and it's driving the spindle via a tiny belt. Originally there was a set of gears going from the motor to the spindle, and I did not like that. It was relatively noisy, and you could see it on the surface finish of the grind. So I took off all the gears, machined 2 pulleys, and welded some 4mm polyurethane belting into an endless loop. And now when I let this run, it's really very quiet. Yes, the belt cover is off, it's sitting over on the bench. And also both directions. It swivels around on the base. You can spin it 360 degrees as if you want to do taper grinding. I tried it to grind a Morse taper 2 with it, and that works perfectly. You can indicate it in very fast and then grind it. Okay, next piece of equipment is the universal dividing head. This again has keys in its base to align it, can swivel 360 degrees around on the base, and it can tilt back and forth about 30 to 40 degrees, depends on clearance. Spins freely and has a lock here. This dividing head does not have indexing plates. It just has a 360 degree dial on the back and a vernier. I already machined a recess back here that will hold indexing plates. I machined a flat here on the top of the dividing head, and I screwed on this 20 by 20mm rail out of tool steel. It has a row of 6mm tapped holes into it, and this allows me to mount, for example, the index finger arrangement when I want to use an index plate. It can also hold a support finger for tool and cutter grinding, or a dressing diamond, or a microscope to view the actual grinding process, or to hold my camera for filming or whatever. Both the indexing head and the motor-driven workhead have nice beefy 7008 spindle bearings in them, so they run really very decent. Run out in the Morse taper in both of these is about 2 micron. Came also with this thing. This goes into the dividing head like this, and you can clamp, for example, a lathe or a shaper tool in here and do precision grinding with it. Super rough part, very coarse machining. I will throw this on a surface grinder and clean it completely up to make it resemble something that I want to use. But apart from that, it works. I have also ideas to use this workhead for radius dressing. And then we have this piece of tooling. This did not came with the grinder, but I bought it on sale for about 50 bucks. It's one of those inexpensive 5C spindexers. Most people just use them as a dividing head, but you can also, when you remove the screw-on collar back here, you get an axial motion. That means you can use it, for example, for tool and cutter grinding. Grinding the flutes of an end mill. If you add a master thread and a chaser back here, a chaser attachment, you can also do thread grinding with it, or axial back relieving of tools that you want to grind. For example, you would grind a tap on front with an axial back relief grind, and that's something I want to build with this guy here. And then I have these two. This is a set of tailstocks with a Morse taper 2 socket in both of them that bolt directly on the table. And you can use these to do grinding on larger tooling. For example, to grind reamers between centers, or grind large wheel cutters on an arbor between centers. Gives you very much options. If you add an auxiliary drive, like a drill motor, you can also do cylindrical grinding between fixed centers with this, which is very nice because it's run out wise very good. So, as you can see, this machine will give me a lot of new options in the shop. And also endless possibilities for improvement. To be honest, quality-wise, the machine was definitely a kit. Out of the box, you might be able to do some cutter grinding with it, but for real precision grinding, no way. There was just too much problems with it. But I'm not complaining. I was looking into buying a used industrial machine, but people are just crazy with their price expectations. If the machine is not completely burned out, for a used industrial tool and cutter grinder with a little bit of accessories that's not completely worked down to the ground, you pay some real money. So that's why I decided to go Chinese once again with my machinery. I just want to show you the additional motions the head can do, not only up and down. If you loosen this bolt over here, you can tilt the spindle front and back. In fact, you can go 360 degrees around, there is no stop there. This is the mounting bracket for the wheel guard. I machined that myself because the original wheel guard is almost comically large and heavy duty. This is about 15mm wall thickness, cast iron. Weighs a ton and is always in the way. And if we swing the head around like this, it's oriented like on a cylindrical grinder. Spindle in line with the table traverse. That means we place the motor-driven workhead up here and we can do cylindrical grinding. I haven't done much work so far with this machine. I tried to grind countersinks and I played around grinding a dovetail cover. That worked out relatively okay. And I did some surface grinding, dovetail grinding, and I played around with cylindrical grinding. But over the time, of course, I will show you more and more work done on this machine once I learn the ins and outs of tool grinding and also cylindrical grinding. I also want to add a high-speed spindle to this machine so I can do ID grinding. So, I hope you enjoyed this overview of this machine. Thank you all for watching and see you next time.